You should have stayed out of it.
Have you lost your mind?
You are an embarrassment. Consider our agreement null and void. It is you who is an embarrassment. We're done. The deal is off.
Get back where you belong. You don't fit in here. Rebecca Morrison grabbed the rich chocolate cake and thrust it straight into Diana Carter's face. Frosting flew everywhere. Rebecca seized Diana's hair, smashing the dessert deeper into her skin, then kicked Diana's briefcase, documents flying across the polished floor. 300 tech industry leaders watched in shock. Phones rose instantly. The Morrison Tech Annual Gala livestream captured every second. "Oops," Rebecca said, cleaning her hands on Diana's outfit. "Should have stayed in your own world." Diana remained quiet. Cake dripped down her face. Her navy outfit was completely destroyed. She glanced at her expensive watch. 10:09 in the evening, 8 minutes before the big Amazon signing. The livestream numbers shot up. 46,000 people watching, climbing rapidly. Comments poured into Morrison's official social media. Rebecca had just attacked the wrong person on camera. Diana Carter controlled far more than Rebecca's inheritance. She controlled Rebecca's family's entire future, but Rebecca had no idea yet. Where are you from? Tell us in the comments below. And if you're loving this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Have you ever been publicly attacked by someone whose family fortune depends completely on your decision? Diana knelt to gather her scattered files. Rebecca's shoe came down hard on Diana's fingers. "Don't touch anything. Security will deal with your fake papers." Rebecca's words echoed through the massive hall. "Everyone, see what happens when we don't check our guest lists properly." People turned, cameras pointed. The Morrison Tech livestream viewer total reached 68,000. Diana stood up slowly, dessert still sliding down her chin. She looked at her crushed hand, then stared directly at Rebecca. No fury, no crying, just ice-cold thinking. "Miss, I believe there's been some confusion here." Rebecca laughed, facing the audience. "This person snuck into our private event, probably planning to steal equipment or access codes. I've dealt with this type before. They always pretend they're supposed to be here." The word, they lingered like toxic waste. A tech leader near the refreshments whispered to his partner, "God, is she really doing this on camera?" Martin Chen, the venue manager, stepped between them. His expression showed the careful neutrality of someone paid to manage wealthy people's disasters. "Ladies, maybe we could handle this somewhere private." "Nothing private here," Rebecca snapped. "I want everyone watching what happens to intruders." She grabbed the microphone from a nearby stand. "Everyone, we have a security problem." The hall went silent. 300 faces looked their way. Diana stood completely still in the middle, covered in dessert and surrounded. A photographer from Tech World lowered his equipment, uncomfortable watching this scene develop. Rebecca's amplified voice filled the room. "This person infiltrated our exclusive gathering. She clearly doesn't belong. Just look at that cheap clothing and fake composure. I caught her going through private documents." Light applause rippled through parts of the crowd. Some attendees filmed eagerly, craving entertainment. Others shifted nervously, sensing something wasn't right but too scared to intervene. "The outfit is probably stolen," Rebecca went on, getting comfortable with her audience. "And that expensive watch, obviously counterfeit. These types think they can trick us with fake designer goods." Diana wiped frosting from her eyes. Her gaze located the closest camera, Morrison's official live stream, and she looked straight into it. The operator, recognizing compelling footage, zoomed in on her strangely calm expression. "The cleaning staff costume is convincing," Rebecca continued, "but we all know where she truly belongs, back in the kitchen, washing dishes." More scattered laughter. Livestream comments exploded. "OMG, this is brutal. Poor lady. Rebecca is completely out of control. Someone needs to stop this. This is racist as hell. Somebody call authorities." Diana checked her watch again, 10:11 in the evening, 6 minutes before the Amazon signing ceremony that would decide Morrison Tech's survival. Her phone vibrated against her side. Text notification. "Diana watching livestream from Tokyo. Emergency board meeting in 4 minutes. The Amazon contract depends on tonight. J. Morrison." Rebecca noticed Diana checking her device. "And there's your proof, probably coordinating with partners outside. Security." 2 uniformed guards walked over hesitantly. Diana didn't react. She opened her purse slowly, carefully, and took out a business card. "Mr. Chen," she said quietly, handing it to the venue manager. "Maybe you should check my credentials before this continues." Chen examined the card. His eyes grew wide like he'd been struck. He looked at Diana, then at Rebecca, then back at the card. His professional mask cracked visibly. Rebecca snatched the card from his fingers. "Dr. Diana Carter, Senior Vice President, Amazon Web Services." She laughed so hard she made an unpleasant sound. "This is the worst forgery I've ever seen. Amazon executives don't look like her." Several people gasped loudly. The live stream total hit 90,000 viewers. The comment area became a war zone. "Rebecca Morrison is garbage. Someone's getting fired. Amazon is watching this. She's about to find out." Diana retrieved her phone despite the spiderweb cracks from Rebecca's shoe. She displayed the screen to Chen. Her Amazon executive badge photo clearly shown along with calendar alerts for tonight's signing. Chen stepped backward as if lightning had hit him. "Miss Morrison, I believe maybe we should." "You believe what?" Rebecca's face turned bright red. "That this person is actually from Amazon? Martin, you're unemployed if you trust that nonsense." Diana spoke calmly. "Mr. Chen, could you please contact Amazon's headquarters and confirm Dr. Diana Carter's identity? Despite the dessert Miss Morrison applied to my face, I believe my voice will be recognizable." "Don't you dare," Rebecca screamed. "She's acting out this whole dessert victim performance." But Chen was already dialing, staring at Diana's chocolate-covered but composed face. The call connected on speaker. "Amazon Corporation, Seattle headquarters, how may I direct you?" "Yes, I need to reach Dr. Diana Carter's office, please." "Certainly, connecting you to Senior Vice President Carter's executive assistant." Rebecca's face lost all color. "This is impossible. She's covered in cake." "Dr. Carter's office. This is Jennifer speaking." Diana wiped frosting from her lips before talking. "Jennifer, this is Dr. Carter. I'm at the Morrison Tech Gala, but I've experienced an incident involving dessert." "Oh my goodness, Dr. Carter, we've been watching the live stream. That woman attacked you with cake. Should I contact the police?" The hall went completely silent. Rebecca's jaw dropped open. "Jennifer, are you and the staff still watching the Morrison live stream?" "Yes, ma'am. The whole executive floor is watching. We're absolutely shocked. Legal wants to know if you're filing charges for the dessert assault." Rebecca lunged for the phone. "That's not, she's lying about the cake." Diana moved back smoothly, dessert still stuck in her hair. "Ladies and gentlemen, despite Miss Morrison's creative use of pastry, I am indeed Dr. Diana Carter, Senior Vice President of Amazon Web Services." She held up her sticky phone, showing the Amazon executive portal. The venue's projection equipment connected, displaying her credentials on huge screens. "Diana Carter, Senior Vice President, Amazon Web Services Cloud Platform, Employee ID DC 49382. Authorization level, $5 billion contract authority. Current assignment, Morrison Tech Partnership, $4.3 billion, status, active. Signing scheduled, 10:16 this evening." The live stream exploded past 127,000 viewers. "Amazon exec assaulted with cake. Plot twist of the year. $4 billion karma. She owns Morrison." Rebecca stared at the screens, chocolate evidence still visible on Diana's professional bearing. "But you can't be, you're covered in dessert." Diana's voice cut through Rebecca's shock like a blade. "Yes, Miss Morrison, the cake you deliberately smashed into my face on camera in front of 127,000 witnesses. What exactly did you think that would accomplish?" 10:14 in the evening, 3 minutes before the signing ceremony. Diana Carter, dessert covered but unshaken, held all the control. The hall erupted in chaos. Rebecca's father, Jonathan Morrison, burst through the audience like a man fleeing a disaster. "Rebecca, what on earth is happening here?" His eyes surveyed the scene. Diana covered in chocolate dessert, phones recording from every direction, his daughter holding a microphone like a threat. Rebecca spun toward him, relief washing over her expression. "Dad, perfect timing. This woman crashed our event and now she's pretending to work for Amazon. I handled the situation with some cake." Jonathan's gaze fixed on Diana's dessert-covered state, then moved to the massive screen still showing her credentials. His face turned pale. "Oh God, Rebecca, what have you done?" "I protected our gathering." Rebecca's voice climbed higher. She was obviously a fraud, so I gave her some dessert to match her performance. Everyone laughed. A voice from the audience called out, "Nobody was laughing when you smashed that cake in her face." Rebecca whirled around. "Be quiet, you don't understand what you witnessed." Diana stood perfectly motionless, letting chocolate drip from her hair onto her destroyed outfit. She wiped frosting from her cheek with careful slowness, making sure every camera captured the evidence. Jonathan recognized Diana from months of video meetings. His voice emerged as a choked whisper. "Miss Carter, I am so deeply sorry." "Sorry?" Rebecca shrieked. "Sorry for what? Dad, she's covered in dessert. Look at her, she's obviously not executive material." The livestream viewer total hit 147,000. Comments flooded faster than anyone could read. "Dad doesn't know. Jonathan Morrison looks sick. She attacked an Amazon exec. Morrison Tech is finished." Jonathan grabbed Rebecca's arm. "Stop talking immediately." "I will not stop." Rebecca pulled free, dessert residue still under her nails. "I refuse to be intimidated by some dessert-covered con artist." Diana's phone buzzed. She answered on speaker, her voice carrying across the silent hall despite the cake in her hair. "Hello, Andy." Even Rebecca recognized the name, Andy Yassi, CEO of Amazon. "Diana, the entire board is watching this live stream. Are you safe? Do you need medical help after the dessert assault?" Rebecca's face went white. That's impossible." Diana's voice remained steady. "I'm fine, Andy, just wearing some unexpected dessert courtesy of Miss Morrison. The dessert attack is trending globally. Legal wants to file assault charges, but Diana, the decision is yours. Do we proceed with Morrison Tech tonight, or do we activate the termination clause?" The hall held its breath. 147,000 viewers waited. Jonathan Morrison looked like he might be sick. Rebecca grabbed the phone. "This is fake. She hired actors. Look at her. She's covered in chocolate." Diana calmly retrieved her phone. "Andy, I'll contact you in 3 minutes with my decision." The line went dead. Silence stretched like a wire about to break. Security Chief Raymond Martinez walked over carefully. He'd been watching from the rear, taking notes. "Miss Morrison, I've reviewed our security footage. You clearly attacked this woman with dessert, then stepped on her hand and kicked her briefcase." "She attacked me first." Rebecca's lie came out desperate and high-pitched. Martinez held up his tablet, showing the video. "Ma'am, you approached her, you threw the cake, you grabbed her hair and spread more frosting on her face, then you kicked her belongings. This is assault recorded from 7 different angles." The crowd pressed closer, phones capturing Rebecca's breakdown. Diana continued wiping dessert from her face, each movement careful and condemning. Rebecca's voice cracked. "But she doesn't belong here. Look at her. She's covered in chocolate like a Leica." "Like what?" Diana's question cut through the air like ice. Rebecca's mouth opened and closed. The words she wanted to say would destroy her completely. Jonathan tried damage control. "Diana, please, let's discuss this privately." Rebecca was clearly intoxicated. "I am not drunk." Rebecca spun on her father. "I'm the only one here with sense. She's obviously a fraud covered in dessert." A venue server stepped forward nervously. "Excuse me, but I witnessed everything. Miss Morrison took the cake from our dessert station and deliberately threw it at this lady's face. Then she laughed and said something about her knowing her place." "Be quiet," Rebecca snarled. "Nobody asked you." More witnesses emerged from the audience. "I filmed the whole dessert attack on my phone. She said, 'Get back where you belong,' before throwing it. She called her trash right at the beginning. She grabbed her hair and smeared more dessert after the initial throw." Each testimony hammered another nail in Rebecca's downfall. Diana stood in the center, dessert-covered but dignified, letting the evidence speak. Rebecca's desperation reached fever pitch. "You're all lying. She planned this. She probably brought fake dessert to frame me." The absurdity of her claim drew nervous laughter from the crowd. Diana checked her watch through sticky frosting. 10:15 in the evening, 2 minutes before the signing deadline. Jonathan fell to his knees in front of Diana, his $3,000 suit hitting the marble floor. "Please, Dr. Carter, I'll terminate Rebecca immediately. I'll give you anything you want. Just don't destroy 13,000 jobs because my daughter threw dessert at you." "Dad, get up," Rebecca screamed. "Don't beg for this dessert-covered nobody." The live stream exploded past 162,000 viewers. The comments became a waterfall. "CEO on his knees." Rebecca still doesn't understand. 13,000 jobs on the line. Dessert karma is real. Diana looked down at Jonathan Morrison, then at Rebecca, who was still covered in dessert evidence of her own cruelty. Mr. Morrison, your daughter didn't just assault me with dessert. She did it while calling me trash and telling me to get back where I belong. All recorded, all witnessed, all trending globally right now. Rebecca's face twisted with rage. I never said that. These people are lying. Rebecca, Jonathan's voice thundered. Every word is on video. Diana's phone rang again. She answered on speaker. Diana, this is Jennifer from your office. The Amazon board has made a decision. Given the racist dessert assault captured on livestream, we're implementing Protocol 8. Rebecca didn't know what Protocol 8 meant, but Jonathan's face went gray. Diana's voice carried across the hall. Are you certain about Protocol 8? Yes, ma'am. The dessert attack has been viewed over 2 million times in the last 11 minutes. Amazon cannot be associated with this level of public racism and dessert assault. Protocol 8 is active unless you override. Diana looked at Rebecca, who was still wiping dessert residue from her own hands. What's Protocol 8? Rebecca demanded, chocolate crumbs falling from her hair as she shook her head. Diana's smile was cold as winter. Complete termination of all Amazon partnerships with Morrison Tech, effective immediately, plus a 6-year industry blacklist preventing you from contracting with any Amazon partner company. The color drained from Rebecca's face. But you can't do that over a small dessert incident. A small dessert incident? Diana's voice rose for the first time all night. You assaulted me with racist slurs, smashed cake into my face, stepped on my hand, kicked my briefcase, and then spent 21 minutes trying to humiliate me further. All while I was here to sign a $4.3 billion deal that would save your family's company. Rebecca stared at her, dessert evidence still visible on both their clothes. The magnitude finally hit her. I didn't know you were important, she whispered. Diana wiped the last of the frosting from her face. Important? You didn't know I was human. The dessert attack would have been wrong regardless of who I was. A tech journalist from Businessweek pushed forward. Dr. Carter, will Amazon pursue criminal charges for the dessert assault? Before Diana could answer, Rebecca exploded. Criminal charges over dessert? This is insane. Security Chief Martinez stepped forward. Miss Morrison, assault is assault. The medium doesn't matter. You attacked her with food, grabbed her hair, and caused deliberate humiliation. That's battery under California law. The live stream comments went wild. Criminal charges for dessert attack. Rebecca going to jail. Felony assault with pastry. Rich girl prison time. Rebecca's last desperate attempt. Dad by Amazon, then we can fire her. Jonathan Morrison closed his eyes in defeat. Rebecca, Amazon is worth $3.2 trillion. We're worth $1.9 billion, and after tonight, probably much less. The reality finally penetrated Rebecca's privileged bubble. She had dessert attacked someone with the power to destroy her family's legacy. Diana's voice carried across the silent hall. Miss Morrison, when you smashed that dessert into my face, what exactly did you think would happen? I thought it was funny. Rebecca's voice came out small and broken. Funny? Diana's composure finally cracked slightly. You found racist assault funny? You enjoyed humiliating someone you thought was powerless. Rebecca stared at the chocolate still clinging to Diana's hair, the evidence of her cruelty impossible to deny. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Diana wiped dessert from her cheek one final time, the gesture deliberate and damning. Miss Morrison, intention doesn't erase impact. Your dessert attack wasn't an accident. Your racist words weren't mistakes, and my response won't be either. The crowd waited for judgment. The live stream reached 183,000 viewers. Media outlets worldwide picked up the story. Heiress assaults Amazon executive with dessert at gala. Diana Carter, dignified despite the chocolate evidence of Rebecca's hatred, held the future of Morrison Tech in her dessert-covered hands. The clock struck 10:17 in the evening. The signing deadline had passed. Time for consequences. Diana Carter stood in the center of the hall, chocolate dessert still clinging to her hair, and reached into her briefcase. The same briefcase Rebecca had kicked across the marble floor. Before I make my final decision about Morrison Tech, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room, I think everyone should understand exactly what Miss Morrison destroyed tonight. She pulled out a thick contract bound in blue leather. Dessert crumbs fell from the cover as she opened it. This is the Amazon Morrison partnership agreement valued at $4.3 billion over 3 years. Diana held it up for the cameras. I came here tonight with full authorization to sign this contract and save Morrison Tech from bankruptcy. The live stream exploded to 203,000 viewers. Comments flooded faster than the system could display. $4.3 billion contract. She came to save them. Rebecca destroyed her own family. Dessert attack cost $4 billion. Rebecca's face went white as fresh snow. That's impossible. You're covered in dessert. You can't be. Diana turned to the second page, showing detailed financial projections despite chocolate fingerprints on the edges. Morrison Tech current debt, $2.2 billion. Annual revenue declining 24% year-over-year. Without this Amazon partnership, you'll be in bankruptcy within 19 months. Jonathan Morrison's knees buckled. He gripped a nearby chair for support. This contract, Diana continued, dessert still dripping from her chin, would have provided Morrison Tech with guaranteed revenue streams, technology licensing agreements, and most importantly, legitimacy in the cloud computing space. She flipped to a page marked with yellow highlights. The signing was scheduled for exactly 10:16 this evening. It is now 10:18. Per the terms of this agreement, failure to execute by the deadline voids all negotiations. Rebecca lunged forward. But you can still sign it. Just sign it. Diana stepped back, protecting the contract from Rebecca's grasping hands. Miss Morrison, you assaulted the signatory. You covered me in dessert while calling me racial slurs in front of 203,000 witnesses. She turned to address the crowd directly. What none of you knew, what Miss Morrison couldn't have known when she decided to attack me with pastry, is that I've been working on this Morrison partnership for 9 months. Diana pulled out her phone, the cracked screen still functional despite the earlier assault. I have over 312 emails between myself and Mr. Morrison, thousands of hours of preparation, teams of lawyers and accountants working around the clock. The hall was dead silent except for the soft clicking of cameras and phones. I flew from Seattle specifically for tonight's signing. I've been staying at this venue for 4 days, finalizing details. Diana's voice carried a weight that made everyone lean in. Miss Morrison destroyed 9 months of work with a single dessert. Rebecca's father tried to speak. Diana, surely we can. There's more, Diana interrupted. She reached back into her briefcase and pulled out a second document. This is Morrison Tech's financial audit completed last week by our due diligence team. She opened a page marked Critical Findings in red ink. Your company is in worse shape than you've disclosed publicly. The Amazon partnership wasn't just an opportunity, it was your last lifeline. Jonathan Morrison's face went gray. How could you possibly know? Because, Mr. Morrison, Amazon doesn't sign $4.3 billion contracts without extensive background checks. Diana flipped through pages of financial analysis, each one damning. Your accounts receivable are inflated by 32%. Your cloud infrastructure is 8 years behind industry standards. 4 of your major clients are planning to terminate contracts within 7 months. The live stream comments went insane. Morrison is bankrupt. Financial fraud exposed. Diana did her homework. Rebecca killed a dying company. Rebecca stared at the documents, dessert residue still under her fingernails. But we're successful. Dad's company is worth billions. On paper, Diana said quietly. In reality, Morrison Tech is a house of cards. This Amazon partnership was the only thing standing between your family and complete financial ruin. She turned to face Rebecca directly, chocolate still visible in her hair but her dignity intact. When you smashed that dessert into my face, Miss Morrison, you weren't just assaulting an Amazon executive. You were destroying your family's future with your bare hands. Rebecca's voice came out as a whisper. I didn't know. You didn't know because you never bothered to learn, Diana replied. You inherited privilege but never developed judgment. You gained wealth but never earned wisdom. Diana pulled out a final document, this one pristine, untouched by dessert. This is Amazon's alternative partnership list. 13 companies are ready to accept a $4.3 billion cloud infrastructure deal. She held it up for the cameras. Cloud Tech Solutions, Data Flow Industries, Skybridge Systems, all of them have been waiting for exactly this opportunity. Jonathan Morrison fell into a chair, the weight of realization crushing him. You're going to sign with someone else. I'm going to sign with a company whose executives don't assault people with pastry, Diana confirmed. A company whose leadership understands basic human decency. Rebecca's last desperate attempt. But you can't judge our whole company by what I did. I'm just one person. Diana looked at her with something approaching pity. Miss Morrison, you're not just one person. You're the CEO's daughter. You represent Morrison Tech's values and culture. And tonight you showed the world exactly what those values are. She gestured to the chocolate still staining both their clothes. You attacked me with dessert because you thought I was powerless. You called me racial slurs because you thought I was beneath you. You tried to humiliate me because you thought there would be no consequences. The hall held its breath. 203,000 viewers waited. But Miss Morrison, there are always consequences, and sometimes they cost $4.3 billion. Diana closed the contract and returned it to her briefcase. The sound of the clasp clicking shut echoed like a gunshot. The Amazon-Morrison partnership is officially terminated. Morrison Tech will receive formal notification within 25 hours. Rebecca collapsed into a chair, the full magnitude finally hitting her. She had destroyed her family's empire with a single dessert. Diana pulled out her phone and dialed. Hello, Sarah. This is Diana. Please draft the Cloud Tech Solutions Partnership Agreement. Yes, same terms as Morrison. We'll sign tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon. She hung up and looked at Rebecca one last time. Miss Morrison, I hope that dessert was worth $4.3 billion because that's exactly what it cost your family. The live stream reached 223,000 viewers. News outlets worldwide picked up the story. Financial markets prepared for Morrison Tech's collapse. Diana Carter, dessert-covered but victorious, had just delivered the most expensive karma in corporate history. Rebecca stared at her chocolate-stained hands, the remnants of the dessert that had destroyed everything. The hall erupted in chaos as reporters rushed forward with questions, but Diana was already walking toward the exit, leaving Morrison Tech and Rebecca's privilege in ruins behind her. The twist was complete. The dessert assault had revealed not just racism, but the destruction of a $4.3 billion empire, and it was all captured on camera for the world to see. Diana paused at the hall exit and turned back one final time. Her voice carried over the chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, let this be a lesson. Character isn't revealed in boardrooms or balance sheets. It's revealed in moments like these, when people think no one important is watching. She touched the dessert still clinging to her hair. Tonight, Miss Morrison showed her true character, and in doing so, she lost everything her family spent decades building. The crowd stood in stunned silence as Diana Carter walked out, leaving behind the ruins of Morrison Tech and the most expensive piece of dessert in history. Rebecca sat motionless, staring at her hands, finally understanding that actions have consequences, even for the privileged, especially for the privileged. Diana paused at the hall exit, her hand on the door handle. The chocolate dessert still clung to her hair, but her voice carried absolute authority when she spoke. Actually, before I leave, I think Morrison Tech deserves to understand the full scope of what Miss Morrison's dessert attack has cost them. She turned back to face the crowd, briefcase in hand. The livestream viewer count hit 253,000 as word spread across social media. Mr. Morrison, would you like to know the precise financial impact of your daughter's pastry assault? Jonathan Morrison looked up from his chair, his face the color of ash. Diana, please. Diana opened her briefcase and pulled out a calculator and several documents. The crowd pressed closer, sensing something monumental about to unfold. Let's calculate this together, shall we? Diana's voice was clinical professional. The Amazon partnership, $4.3 billion over 3 years. Average annual value, $1.4 billion. She punched numbers into the calculator, dessert crumbs falling onto the device's surface. Morrison Tech current annual revenue, $1.9 billion. The Amazon deal would have increased your revenue by 79% immediately. Rebecca watched in horror as Diana continued her devastating financial autopsy. Your current debt servicing costs, $187 million annually. The Amazon partnership would have reduced that to $78 million through improved cash flow and credibility with lenders. Diana turned to address the livestream cameras directly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not just talking about lost revenue. We're talking about the domino effect of Miss Morrison's dessert attack. She pulled out a financial projection chart, somehow still legible despite chocolate fingerprints along the edges. Without the Amazon deal, Morrison Tech will default on their Deutsche Bank loan within 7 months. Default triggers acceleration clauses on $1.3 billion in additional debt. The mathematical precision of the destruction was breathtaking. Rebecca had literally thrown dessert at a $4.3 billion solution to her family's problems. But wait, Diana said, her voice carrying dark humor. There's more. She displayed another document. Morrison Tech has 861 employees in their cloud computing division. Average salary, $97,000. Total annual payroll, $83.5 million. Diana's finger traced down the page. Without the Amazon partnership, this entire division becomes redundant. 861 people will lose their jobs because Miss Morrison decided to redecorate my face with chocolate. The hall went dead silent. The weight of those jobs, those families, those futures, all destroyed by a single moment of racist dessert violence. Rebecca's voice came out as a broken whisper. But you could still save them. You could still sign. Diana looked at her with cold professionalism. Miss Morrison, you assaulted an Amazon executive on camera. You committed a hate crime that's been viewed by 250,000 people. Amazon's legal department is currently reviewing options for both criminal and civil prosecution. She pulled out her phone and showed a screenshot of Amazon's official Twitter account. At Amazon Corporation condemns the racist assault on our senior VP at Diana Carter AWS at tonight's Morrison Tech event. We are reviewing all partnership agreements with immediate effect. Zero tolerance. The tweet had 91,000 retweets in 22 minutes. Your dessert attack didn't just cost Morrison Tech money, Miss Morrison. It cost you Amazon's trust, respect, and partnership forever. Diana turned to Jonathan Morrison. Sir, I've worked in corporate partnerships for 16 years. I've never seen a deal this large destroyed so quickly or so completely. She opened another file. Would you like to know what your options are now? Jonathan nodded wordlessly, a broken man watching his empire crumble. Option 1, bankruptcy. File Chapter 11 within 62 days. Liquidate assets. Terminate all employees. Your lifetime of work becomes worthless. Diana flipped to the next page. Option 2, hostile takeover. Your competitors circle like vultures. They'll buy Morrison Tech for pennies on the dollar and strip it for parts. Rebecca's voice cracked. There has to be another option. Option 3, Diana continued relentlessly, sell to Cloud Tech Solutions, Amazon's new partner, for approximately $207 million. That's 90% less than Morrison Tech was worth this morning before your daughter's dessert assault. The numbers were devastating. Rebecca had cost her family not just $4.3 billion in partnership revenue, but $1.7 billion in company value. Diana pulled out a final document that made Jonathan Morrison go pale. This is Morrison Tech's stock performance since our live stream began. She showed a graph with a red line plummeting like a cliff. Down 68% in after-hours trading. Market cap decreased from $2.2 billion to $701 million. The chocolate evidence of Rebecca's attack still clung to Diana's hair as she delivered the financial death blow. Miss Morrison, your dessert assault has cost your family approximately $1.5 billion in market value in less than 1 hour. Rebecca stared at the numbers, the magnitude finally penetrating her privileged bubble. I didn't know it would. You didn't know because you never bothered to think, Diana replied sharply. You saw someone you thought was powerless and decided to humiliate them with pastry. You never considered that actions have consequences. Diana addressed the crowd one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what institutional racism costs. Not just dignity, not just feelings. Real money, real jobs, real futures. She gestured to the chocolate still staining both their clothes. Miss Morrison threw a dessert at someone she thought didn't matter. Instead, she threw away her family's entire legacy. The livestream comments exploded. Billion-dollar dessert attack. Most expensive racism ever. Morrison Tech destroyed. Rebecca bankrupted her family. Diana picked up her phone and dialed a number on speaker. Cloud Tech Solutions, this is Dr. Diana Carter from Amazon. Are you still interested in a $4.3 billion partnership? Absolutely, Dr. Carter. We can sign tomorrow if you'd like. Perfect. Morrison Tech just became available for acquisition. Interested? How much? Diana looked directly at Rebecca as she answered. About 207 million. Significant discount due to management issues. Rebecca collapsed completely, the full weight of her destruction finally hitting her. She had cost her family everything for a moment of racist satisfaction. Diana hung up and addressed Jonathan Morrison directly. Sir, Cloud Tech will make you an offer by tomorrow afternoon. I suggest you take it. It's the only way to save any jobs at all. She closed her briefcase, the same one Rebecca had kicked across the floor in her arrogance. The Amazon-Morrison partnership is permanently terminated. The Morrison Tech acquisition by Cloud Tech Solutions will proceed with Amazon's full support. Diana wiped a final piece of dessert from her cheek. Miss Morrison, I hope you enjoyed throwing that pastry because it just cost your family a billion-dollar empire. The hall erupted as reporters surged forward with questions. Security moved to escort Diana safely through the crowd. As she reached the exit, Diana turned back one last time. Her voice carried over the chaos. To everyone watching this live stream, character matters, dignity matters, and treating people with basic human respect matters more than you might think. She touched the chocolate still clinging to her hair. Because sometimes a moment of hatred costs everything you've spent a lifetime building. Diana Carter walked out of the hall, leaving behind the ruins of Morrison Tech, and a lesson the business world would never forget. Rebecca sat motionless, surrounded by the wreckage of her family's fortune, finally understanding that some dessert attacks cost more than $4.3 billion. They cost everything. The livestream reached 278,000 viewers as the most expensive moment of racism in corporate history came to its devastating conclusion. Diana's dignity had proven more valuable than Rebecca's privilege, and the chocolate evidence of that truth was still visible in both their hair. Outside the hall, Diana paused to address the media crowd that had formed. Cameras flashed as reporters shouted questions about the Morrison Tech collapse. Dr. Carter, will Amazon pursue criminal charges? Will you personally sue Rebecca Morrison? How does it feel to destroy a billion-dollar company? Diana raised her hand for silence, dessert still visible in her dark hair under the venue's bright lights. I didn't destroy Morrison Tech. Miss Morrison destroyed it when she chose hatred over humanity. I simply revealed the consequences. A CNN reporter pushed forward. Dr. Carter, some are calling this the most expensive racist incident in corporate history. Your response? Diana's smile was cold but professional. Racism always has a price. Usually that price is paid by the victims. Tonight, for once, it was paid by the perpetrator. She gestured toward the hall where Rebecca could be seen through the glass doors, still covered in evidence of her own cruelty. Miss Morrison thought she could humiliate someone without consequences. She learned that in corporate America, character matters more than privilege. What's next for the 861 Morrison Tech employees who will lose their jobs? Diana's expression softened slightly. Cloud Tech Solutions has committed to retaining 92% of Morrison's workforce. The innocent shouldn't suffer for their leadership's failures. A final question came from the back. Any message for Rebecca Morrison? Diana paused, touching the chocolate still clinging to her hair. Yes, next time you want to throw dessert at someone, make sure it's not the person holding your family's future in their hands. She walked toward the venue exit, leaving behind the most expensive pastry disaster in business history. The final tally. One dessert, one racist attack, $4.3 billion in lost partnerships, $1.5 billion in market value destroyed, 861 jobs hanging in the balance, and Diana Carter, dignity intact despite the chocolate evidence, had proven that sometimes justice comes with frosting on top. As Diana reached her hotel room, she finally allowed herself a moment to process what had happened. She looked in the mirror at the dessert still clinging to her hair, evidence of Rebecca's hatred that had ultimately become proof of her own strength. Her phone buzzed with a text from Amazon CEO Andy Jassy. Diana, the board stands behind you 100%. Take tomorrow off. You've earned it. Another message from her mother. Saw the live stream, baby. Proud of how you handled yourself. That girl learned not to mess with the Carters. Diana smiled, finally ready to wash the chocolate from her hair. Rebecca's dessert attack had backfired spectacularly, destroying everything the Morrison family had built while elevating Diana to corporate legend status. Tomorrow, Cloud Tech Solutions would sign the $4.3 billion deal Morrison Tech had lost. The 861 employees would keep their jobs under better leadership, and Rebecca Morrison would learn that privilege without character is worthless. As Diana stepped into the shower, watching chocolate desserts swirl down the drain, she reflected on the night's events. Sometimes the most expensive lessons in life come from the smallest acts of cruelty, and sometimes justice tastes like chocolate. 49 hours after the dessert attack, the Morrison Tech boardroom was unrecognizable. Gone were the family portraits and corporate awards. In their place sat boxes marked liquidation and Cloud Tech acquisition. Rebecca Morrison sat in handcuffs across from Detective Maria Rodriguez. Chocolate dessert evidence still fresh in everyone's memory despite having been cleaned from her hair days ago. Miss Morrison, you're being charged with assault under California Penal Code 240, battery under Penal Code 242, and civil rights violations under the UNRRA Civil Rights Act. The dessert assault on Dr. Carter was captured by over 278,000 livestream viewers and constitutes a hate crime. Rebecca's lawyer leaned forward. Detective, surely we can resolve this without criminal charges. It was just dessert. Just dessert, Rodriguez's eyebrow raised. That just dessert attack cost Morrison Tech $4.3 billion, destroyed 861 jobs, and was accompanied by racial slurs witnessed by 250,000 people. Rebecca stared at her hands, the same hands that had smashed chocolate into Diana's face. I didn't know she was important. Miss Morrison, Detective Rodriguez replied coldly, assault is illegal regardless of the victim's job title. Your dessert attack would have been wrong if Dr. Carter was a janitor or a CEO. The immediate consequences unfolded rapidly. By noon that day, the corporate fallout was complete. Rebecca Morrison's personal losses, arrested on 3 felony charges stemming from the dessert assault, $87 million trust fund frozen pending civil litigation, banned from all Morrison Tech properties, social media accounts suspended for hate speech, enrolled in court-mandated bias training, 520 hours minimum. Morrison Tech corporate consequences. Stock price down 90% from pre-dessert attack levels. Cloud Tech Solutions acquisition completed for $187 million, 95% below original value. 861 employees transferred to Cloud Tech with salary protection. Jonathan Morrison resigned as CEO effective immediately. Company headquarters sold to cover remaining debts. Legal and financial aftermath. Amazon filed $53 million civil lawsuit for reputational damage. Hotel employees' union filed discrimination complaint. California Attorney General opened hate crime investigation. FBI reviewing potential federal civil rights violations. The systematic changes followed swiftly. Diana Carter stood in Cloud Tech Solutions' new conference room, addressing the former Morrison Tech employees. The memory of Rebecca's dessert attack motivated every word. When someone threw dessert at me while calling me racial slurs, they weren't just attacking me personally. They were attacking the dignity of every person in this room who's ever been judged by their appearance rather than their abilities. She clicked to her first slide. Zero tolerance policy, no exceptions. Cloud Tech Solutions has implemented the most comprehensive anti-discrimination protocols in the tech industry. Any employee who commits assault, whether with dessert words or weapons, faces immediate termination and criminal prosecution. Diana advanced to the next slide. The Morrison Standard. Rebecca Morrison's dessert attack taught us that bias training isn't enough. We need systems that prevent discrimination before it happens. New policies implemented. 1. Real-time monitoring system. AI-powered analysis of all internal communications. Anonymous reporting app with guaranteed 25-hour response. Quarterly bias audits by independent firms. Zero tolerance for any form of assault or harassment. 2. Executive accountability. Leadership bonuses tied to diversity metrics. Mandatory implicit bias training for all executives. Public diversity reporting every 7 months. Board oversight committee with 62% minority representation. 3. Employee protection. $10.3 million victim support fund, legal assistance for discrimination cases, career protection for whistleblowers, mental health counseling for trauma survivors. Diana addressed the audience directly. Miss Morrison thought she could humiliate someone without consequences. Instead, her dessert attack created the strongest anti-discrimination policies in corporate America. The industry ripple effect spread within weeks. The Morrison Standard became the benchmark across Silicon Valley. Amazon's response. Mandatory diversity compliance for all partnerships worth over $103 million. Public partner scorecards rating companies on inclusion metrics. $260 million fund for minority-owned tech businesses. Annual Diana Carter Excellence in Diversity Award established. Other tech giants followed. Google implemented similar monitoring systems. Apple created anonymous assault reporting protocols. Microsoft required bias training for all executives. Meta developed AI discrimination detection tools. Business schools incorporated the case. Harvard Business School added the Morrison case to required curriculum. Stanford created ethics course around the dessert assault incident. Wharton developed character in leadership program. MIT studied the financial cost of workplace discrimination. Rebecca's forced transformation began 6 months after the dessert attack. She stood before Judge Patricia Carter for sentencing. Miss Morrison, your assault on Dr. Carter with dessert and racial slurs caused $4.3 billion in economic damage and destroyed hundreds of careers. However, I'm impressed by your progress in court-mandated counseling. Rebecca's voice was barely audible. Your Honor, I can't undo the dessert I threw or the words I said, but I've spent every day since learning why I was so wrong. Judge Carter reviewed the probation report. 520 hours of bias education completed. 1,000 hours of community service at minority-owned businesses. Public speaking at diversity conferences. Miss Morrison, you will serve 19 months in county jail, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. You're permanently banned from executive positions in any public company. As Rebecca was led away in handcuffs, she looked back at the gallery where Diana Carter sat watching. Dr. Carter, I'm sorry. That isn't enough, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving that the dessert attack taught me to be better. Diana nodded once, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement that growth was possible. The broader message resonated across industries. Diana's final interview aired on 60 Minutes, watched by 16 million viewers. Anderson, people ask me if I regret not pressing criminal charges harder against Rebecca Morrison, but here's what I learned. Destroying her completely wouldn't have changed the system that created her. Anderson Cooper leaned forward. So the dessert attack, in your view, served a larger purpose? Diana touched her hair unconsciously, a habit developed since the assault. Rebecca's dessert attack revealed how deeply racism is embedded in corporate culture. One person's moment of hatred exposed an entire system that needed reform. What would you say to other executives who might face similar discrimination? Diana's smile was steel wrapped in silk. Document everything, stay professional, and remember, your dignity is more powerful than their prejudice. Sometimes the person who throws dessert at you ends up serving you justice on a silver platter. The final tally came 1 year after the dessert attack. Victoria Sterling, serving jail time, $53 million in civil judgments, career destroyed. Morrison Tech, liquidated assets sold, legacy erased. Diana Carter, promoted to Amazon Executive VP, named Time Person of the Year. 861 employees kept their jobs under Cloud Tech with 16% salary increases. The industry, transformed by the Morrison Standard anti-discrimination policies. Diana Carter had proven that sometimes the sweetest revenge is watching your attacker's dessert assault become their own downfall. And the chocolate evidence of Rebecca's hatred had been replaced by lasting institutional change. Justice, it turned out, was better than dessert. 2 years later, Diana Carter stood at the Global Diversity Summit podium, facing 5,000 corporate executives. Behind her, the infamous image, Rebecca Morrison mid-dessert throw. This photograph changed everything, Diana began. Not because of what it shows, but because of what it revealed. The legacy since Rebecca's dessert attack had been extraordinary. 864 companies adopted Morrison's standard anti-discrimination policies, $2.9 billion invested in bias prevention systems industry-wide, 69% drop in workplace discrimination complaints. Rebecca Morrison served 19 months jail, now works as unpaid diversity counselor. Jonathan Morrison lost his fortune, became ethics consultant. Diana Carter, promoted to Amazon Chief Diversity Officer, earned $53 million. Personal reflection followed. People ask if I've forgiven Rebecca for that dessert assault, Diana continued. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting, it's about transforming pain into purpose. Diana's voice carried quiet strength. Rebecca's dessert attack taught me that dignity isn't about never being knocked down, it's about how you rise and what you build while standing back up. Values summarized clearly. That chocolate dessert taught America 4 lessons. Character matters more than capital. Rebecca had $87 million but zero integrity. Her wealth couldn't save her from dessert attack consequences. Dignity is undefeatable. Covered in chocolate, I chose strategy over anger. It changed everything. Privilege without purpose is dangerous. Rebecca's inherited wealth created an entitled person who assaulted others with pastry. Justice takes time, but always comes. Her dessert attack seemed triumphant. 2 years later, she's in counseling while I'm changing corporate America. The continuing impact was undeniable. Rebecca Morrison's moment of hatred became humanity's moment of growth. Her dessert attack was meant to humiliate one person. Instead, it elevated millions. Call to action came next. Diana stepped closer, her voice commanding yet intimate. I want you to do 3 things today. Share your story. Have you witnessed workplace discrimination? Someone being attacked with words or actions? Comment below. Your voice could help others find courage. Spread this message. If this story inspired you, share it. Every share challenges someone to examine their biases. Every view reminds people that actions have consequences. Subscribe to Black Soul Stories. We're building a community committed to dignity over privilege. Hit subscribe and ring that notification bell for more stories of quiet strength defeating loud ignorance. Final inspiration came as Diana's closing words resonated through the silent auditorium. 2 years ago, Rebecca threw dessert at my face because she thought I was powerless. She was wrong about my power, but right about one thing: I was covered in chocolate. The difference? She wore hatred on her hands. I wore her attack with dignity. When the cameras stopped rolling and the dessert was cleaned off, only one of us was left standing. Diana smiled, touching her hair unconsciously, a habit from that night. Sometimes the sweetest victory comes from the sourest moment. Rebecca's dessert attack taught her about consequences, taught me about strength, and taught America that dignity always defeats dessert. Where are you from? Tell us in the comments below. And if you're loving this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more.